Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Success Life Live. My name is Reid. I am your host. I'm also a coach and a speaker on the sideline when I'm not here doing our thing that we love best, Fun Friend Friday. I love Fun Friend Friday because I get to bring to you a friend of mine, a mentor of mine, somebody that's inspiring and changing lives that I want to make sure that you get a chance to meet. Good morning, Miss Sonia. Glad to see you in the house. And so that's how Fun Friend Friday began. You know, Nathan Cook, some of you may know him. He was the spontaneous, just drop the hat. Guess what, Nathan, I'm bringing you live on camera. Here we go, let's go. And that began Fun Friend Friday. And what happened was, as a result of that, people were like, oh, I'm so glad he came on. I'm so glad he shared his message. That was exactly what I needed to hear today. And that's part of the joy and the fun of Fun Friend Friday. We do not rehearse it. We do not script it. We do not plan it out in advance. Because what I believe is that when people of intention, when people of service come together, that there's always this third force in the room, this higher place and this higher power that says, I've got an opportunity to use these amazing people. Let's get them moving in a direction that could change worlds. And so we just become part of the process, and we are not the system. So let me just double check. I think I just saw a message pop up from Wendy. She's saying she's not seeing me. I don't know why. Let me just check something. Yeah, I see you fine, Wendy. I see you, so there you go. There you are, Wendy. There you are, and I see you just turned on your camera, so all is good. Good. Okay, I was just checking the feed. Yeah, sometimes just so everybody knows that there's like a 3-minute delay. Buenos dias, Damien. And so it's funny because often I'll be over here, and then I'll be over here, and I'll be like, wait a minute, I'm not live. And I've learned that I have to wait for that 2 to 3 minutes for Fun Friend Friday, Facebook, and all the universe to catch up. So do me a favor as we begin this morning's Fun Friend Friday. Say good morning, say hello, say where you're at, and make sure you bring somebody into the room with you. Good morning, Elizabeth. I am glad you are here for today's Fun Friend Friday. I will be bringing our guest, Wendy Burns, on in just a minute. She's actually all the way over in Australia, so it's taking a little while for the Facebook crawl to get there, so to speak. So good morning, everybody. Good morning again. My name is Reid. It is Fun Friend Friday, and we have guest Wendy Burns. Good morning, Dean. Glad to see you in the house. By the way, it's over there. I did my morning work. I'm going to just sneak. Remember, we're doing the I Am Challenge, and so for today's word, I had actually written down that yesterday, if you guys had been a part of it, I said that I'm failure proof, meaning that failure doesn't go through. Good morning, Nirna. Today I had put down that I am loved, and it simply became, it wasn't the word that I sort of was feeling in the beginning of the morning, but my daughter, 8 years old, bless her heart, we say that in the South a lot. So I'm sitting doing my work, and sometimes she'll wander in, and it's morning, and she walked up and she pats me on the head, and she said, I like you, Dad. And then as she turned around and left, she said, thank you. And I thought, oh, okay, I guess I am loved today. And I cherish that because, you know, the kid that has all the disabilities, the kid that has all the challenges, the kid that's got like the heart, like the kid can't even do buttons because of her situation, or, you know, she's always like, nothing comes easy for this child except beating up her brother. She is the first one to walk into a room and just pat you on the shoulder or pat you on the top of the head and say, I like you, I love you, or whatever. And she's always the quickest one to say thank you. Like, I can wipe her face off because she's been eating, and she'll go, thank you, with the most sincere thank you, as if to say that I had just saved the universe by wiping her face. So my I am word today was I am loved. And it was really just to remind myself that in the challenge of parenthood, in the challenge of dealing with a kid with special needs, in the challenges of just doing this thing called dadpreneur, ompreneur, solopreneur, that sometimes the stage needs to get a little closer to home. Sometimes everything that I'm working for is right in front of me. And so my I am word was I am loved. If you haven't started the I am challenge, you can still do it. Just jump over to ericgreid.com/Facebook February 2019. Download the little worksheet, download the instruction sheet, get up and get it going. It's never too late to figure out who you are. So with all that said, I am going to jump over here and find my guest, Wendy Burns. Wendy, you just dropped off. Come back, my girl. There you are. Let's see. Should be adding you now. We test drove this the other day and it all went well. So I'm guessing today it's probably going to do the same because I'm optimistic, but I'll save that for tomorrow. So we're clicking, we're adding, we're joining. Wendy is coming to us. She's coming to us. Hopefully her camera is in this position and not this position. It's live and ready to go, and she's in her strong Wi-Fi spot, like all the things that went well yesterday. Now, I will have to say the test day was like 6 a.m. her time, and so she hadn't had coffee, she hadn't had a comb out, she hadn't had the makeup on, and so it worked. So I know today it's now 11 o'clock at night, Aussie's time, and she's probably just now connecting in and connecting up. Wendy, I'm not seeing it add you. Go ahead and log out and log back in one more time to see if it connects. I think something's going on with your camera, and it may have been that you rotated the phone in the middle of the feed. Often that's what happens. So
there we go.
There you go. Good on you.
Well, my light's a bit bright. Hello.
You look fabulous. You know, like I was saying to everybody, the last time we did this, it was like 5 o'clock in the morning for you.
It was a little early. Now it's a little late. 11 o'clock at night.
It's what time?
11 o'clock at night.
Oh, you guys see? This is why we love Wendy. And so it's 11 o'clock Aussie time, 8 o'clock in the morning U.S. time. For those that don't know, Wendy does a lot of late night work. She kind of works throughout the night in a good way, we should say, because a lot of your clients and a lot of the support that you give to our fellow JMT members and the JMT community, John Maxwell team community, happens on East Coast time. And instead of making the world come to you, you said, I'll go to the world. If that means I got to do these things at midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning to be of service, that's what I'll do. And honestly, that's why I love I don't think people outside the U.S. understand the commitment and the sacrifice that requires.
Yeah, and it's just a law of trade-off, isn't it, Eric? We trade off for the outcome that we want. And with my JMT work, I love to serve, so I just trade off my time and I trade off sleep. And we do it all the time in our life, don't we? We trade off something to get something else. It's deciding what that something is and knowing what we won't trade off and what we will.
So see, now you know why she is who she is. She just jumps right into the teaching, right into the lesson. I'm just going to follow along because I'm not a fool. But really quickly, Wendy Burns is a member of the John Maxwell team. You're an executive club member. And are you a founding member? I forgot.
No, I think I was a year after founding, but I'm a PAC member.
You're a PAC member. You're just a bit of everything as well. And so one of the things that you do is orient and guide new John Maxwell team members into the organization, into their business, into their dream, basically. So you're a dream guider.
Yeah, if you put it that way, yes, it's exactly what I do. I chair the global side of Touch. So one of the great things about John Maxwell team, if you don't know it, is that we like to warmly welcome everybody to the team. So everybody that joins the team gets a personal phone call from somebody who's in the Touch team of PAC. And we have a English team that's based in USA and a global team that's based outside. So I lead the team that's based out of USA. So we contact everybody, no matter where they are in the world, make sure they know how to find their way and how to build their dreams. Exactly, Eric. And that's what we do. And we love to do it. We love to serve.
Well, and here, so this is going to show you the power of connection. So you're in Australia, I'm in the US, and Poland is in the house. Our Polish sisters are here with us as well. So you are you have now traveled through 2 continents today to teach and guide others.
I love our Polish sisters. Wonderful.
They are my sisters. They are my heart. So as you had started to say, and we had talked about the topic was going to be about good intentions, in part because I've read some things and watched videos that you've done. And I love the way you explain it and get into it. But I want to roll back the law of trade-offs. So we've got to give up something to go up. There's always going to be something that falls off to go forward. That kind of message. When you made the decisions to play in the game of the law of the trade-offs, when you're like, yeah, I can get up at 1 a.m. and do this training or do this hosting or whatever you're called to do, and you knew it was going to be a trade-off, did you know the cost or did you know the reward more clearly?
I knew the cost in that I'm a morning person, so getting up early at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to work or to contact people or to write my book or whatever it is that I'm doing, I'm okay with that. Trading off the other side, I trade off sleep in a different concept. But that's just one trade-off. Did I know the reward? I know the outcome that I want. I know what I'm not prepared to trade off, and that's family time and those important things that we can't, that affect somebody else other than me. I'm prepared to trade off the things that affect me, such as sleep and, whatever I'm prepared to give up. But I'm not prepared to ask my family to give up for me to get the outcome, unless it's my husband who supports me in my business. And, of course, he gives up so I can go up because we're one. But, yeah, so, yeah, I guess I knew both. But I think you can know it, Eric. But till you actually do it, you don't know it, if that makes sense.
It does, but I think what's interesting is the way you described it. It was, I know I'm going to be giving up something. I know what I want the outcome to be, or I know the direction that I'm thinking going down road left as opposed to road right is going to lead me to. But so often, I think what happens when we talk about the law of sacrifice, the law of trade-off, it's like, well, if I give up this, you got to give me that. If I give up this, I'm expecting that. And that's not the law of the trade-off, folks. The law of the trade-off is like, I know that I only have so much bandwidth, so much time, so much whatever, and I'm willing to give up something of self because I'm being called into something bigger. And sometimes the law of trade-off is just security, comfort, the easy things. Sometimes it's time, sometimes it's money, sometimes it's people. But when we do the law of trade-off, when we live in the law of trade-off, we only can go into it with a hope of the outcome because we're stepping into something we've never done before. We're stepping into that uncomfort zone, so to speak. And we can only go in with the best of intention that if I do this, I will grow this skill, this knowledge, this network, this whatever, which hopefully will lead me to the next direction.
Absolutely correct, because you said the word that I love the most, intention. And good intentions will not do it for me. I need to take intentional action. And isn't that what trade-off is about? We take an intentional action. And you're right, we've got a slight picture of what the outcome will be, but we don't know for sure because we're breaking new ground. But because we've made that decision to take that next step and to take an intentional action, we've got more opportunity to achieve what we're meant to achieve than we have if we just sit on the couch, because good intentions are just that. They'll keep us sitting on the couch and all we'll get is little bottom prints in the couch and we don't actually get an outcome.
Y'all, this is why I love being in Australia. If you don't know Australians, they just go straight through. I don't think there's a crooked road in all of Australia. They just go from point to point in a perfect straight line. She basically just told you, if you're sitting here today with good intentions, you're just sitting here today. And I love the way that it almost became one word, intentional action, intentional action. Like you can't say intentional without action attached to it.
That's right. And there's another little sneaky word attached to that. Do you want to know what that is?
Uh-oh.
Intentionality.
Guys.
Intentionality has a sneaky little partner called commitment. So intentional action also requires commitment. Otherwise, at the first sign of a difficult situation, or as you start to go up that hill and it gets a little bit harder and a little bit harder, it's like that little engine that could. You think, I can't do it, I can't do it. But you've got to have that commitment. And once you make that commitment, you'll keep going. You'll get over the next hurdle and you'll get over the next hurdle because you've made a commitment. And sometimes it's not even to somebody else, but you've made that commitment to yourself. And that's what I love.
So when we have good intentions and we take intentional actions and we start down that road and we're like, okay, okay, I'm doing this thing and this is the outcome that I'm hoping to have, or this is direction I hope it takes me, or this is why I believe I've been called into it. Whatever that thing is that we sort of see like dawn on the horizon. We can just see the sliver of life, but we don't know what it's going to really look like for the whole day. And it doesn't start to show up and it doesn't begin to manifest. And it seems like everything we're doing is pushing us backwards instead of forward. How do you stay in that law of trade-off instead of saying, well, I'm going to trade it off for something else? No, I'm going to trade it off for here.
I guess for me, as I said before, I've made that commitment, and the people that I work with, my clients, my groups that I work with, I talk about failing forward in those things. You know, a journey of 1,000 steps begins with one, doesn't it? So in some days we might take one, we might take the next one, and occasionally we'll take one back because we slide a little bit down the hill. But what we have to do is being prepared to get up and keep going. And I loved what you shared about on your last feed. I wrote it down. I can't find it, about being
people are
fail-proof.
taking notes.
Yes, I took notes about fail-proof. And I actually shared it with a client today. And I shared the idea about being, and I used it as in fear-proof as well as fail-proof, because we have a fear of failure and we fear we're going to fail. But and at the slightest sign, if we look for a failure, if we look for that slightest slip on our journey, or we can't see even the edge of where we're hoping to go, we want to give up. But what if we're fear-proof as well as fail-proof? What if we know that we're just going to keep going till we see the edge of that, or till we see the next step? I've never been well, for the first part of my life, and you probably know my story, and lots of people do, for the first 34 years of my life, I blamed everybody else for what went wrong for me, for my attitude, for my choices, for my behavior. And when I was 34, I realized that I could actually take responsibility for my choices. And my circumstances may not change overnight, but my choices and my attitude to be able to achieve the outcome that I actually could be remarkable if I set my mind to it and made the right choices. So just knowing that once you make that commitment, of course it's not going to be easy, but you make that commitment to yourself every day. And I wrote it down. I was thinking about what was it that stood out for me. In case you asked me the question, Eric, was that I developed a greater level of self-worth, self-respect, self-confidence and self-esteem. But it was something I had to keep rebuilding with myself every day. See, self-esteem is a daily thing. You have to reestablish it every day. Every day you're thinking about yesterday's doesn't count. For today, it's what am I doing today, how I think about myself today, my greater awareness of myself today. And that's what counts.
So I have to update you. You've now crossed over 4 continents. You're now in Poland, the US, North America. Peru just signed in. So you're back in South America. And now we have Carl that's somewhere in the Africas. We just always just point to the Africa as a whole thing when it comes to Carl, because he keeps moving around. So just think of the impact. You're having a global impact today.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to do that.
I do. Trust me, I'm the guy that's learning. I've got like the recording button going on over here. But I love how you said self-esteem is a daily management system. How do you, what I love about you is you don't just, I mean, like you have, like if I went in your office, there would be a business plan written out for how to maintain self-esteem. You chart, you graph, you organize, you're a disciplined person. How do you maintain self-esteem? Like, what is your practice from where you were at 34 versus where you are today at 45?
That'd be lovely. Add another 20 onto that. The power of reflection and quiet time for me, my self-esteem comes out of, I reflect on what I do. I've learned the power of reflecting on what worked well and what I need to do differently in how I manage myself, how I represent myself, how I behave. All of those things come out of that power of reflection. I start my day with a quiet time. if I have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning because I've got a busy agenda, or 3 o'clock in the morning, I will do that so I can have some quiet time. I'm a woman of faith. It's out there. You know, everybody knows that I'm a woman of faith. And for me, that was part of my change when I turned 34. But it has also given me a sense of I have a greater accountability for my thoughts and my actions. And my thoughts and my actions, not just other people, because often that's easy. It's our thoughts and our actions about ourselves, how we think about ourselves, how we speak about ourselves, how we behave towards ourselves, you know, respecting our own bodies, our own health. All of those things have come into play for me to be able to keep my self-esteem and my self-confidence. And sure, there are times when you can feel like, oh, I've blown it. You know, I'm no good at this. But I am so quick. I said today with a client, it's knowing as soon as that thought comes to your mind, what's the opposite of that? I've learned to say that I shall, I will, and I can. And I'm just like that little engine that could. I know I can, I know I can. I say yes, and then I work it out later, how I'm going to do it. And truly, that's what's helped me. That's what's enabled me to keep going forward. And even when there's been failures, and there have been many, but you know what? They've been wonderful. I have learned so much. And I've grown so much out of that. I've learned to be creative. I've learned to be confident in who I am without, and I guess I'm just going to retract for a minute. The biggest thing that I learned is that somebody else's opinion of me doesn't matter. It's my opinion of me that matters the most. That was a changing thing for me.
And I gotta echo that. I was actually in a conversation the other day with somebody, and I said, FYI, there is no permanent record except the one that's placed above your head when you drop over dead. And that only records your name, your birth date, your death date, and maybe a clever little quote. So quit worrying about it. That idea that you guys, there were like 3 things I'm going to try and roll back into. One, yeah, other people's opinion is nice. It's warm. It's comforting. It's great to be applauded. It's great to be recognized. But it shouldn't matter based on the actions that you're taking in the direction of your dreams. If you trade off who you are for what people say you are, then you're never going to get the dream that you want. So
That's right.
When Wendy says other people's opinion doesn't matter, yeah, she's like everybody else. She likes getting a thank you card and a well done and a good on you. But if she doesn't, it doesn't deter her from the path that she's already said she was going to take internally. You need a higher accountability partner than just your friends.
Yes.
And I love that one because you all know I love you on Success Like Life. But you can't come over and take away my mortgage, take away my family. You know, there's only so much influence you can have on me and my security in my life if I don't show up the way I should. But a higher level of accountability, a higher level of standard, that calls me into action. And if you're not a person of faith, that's totally fine. But the idea of saying, I've got to be accountable to something bigger than myself, maybe being accountable to your future self, being accountable to that person you see in 30 days, 90 days, 1 year away, 5 years away. The actions that you take have got to honor that person you want to become.
That's right.
And so look for your accountability partner first in yourself or first in your faith. And if you're still trying to figure that out, then find it in your faith, find it in yourself, but stop sort of like letting the world around you determine your success and failure, because they're going through the same muddled mess that you are.
Yeah, that's so true, Eric. And that, you know, that the first 34 years of my life were exactly that. The world had told me, because, you know, both of my parents committed suicide, one of them in front of me. And the world had told me that I would end up like my parents, you know, both were alcoholics. And so, you know, the law of the pitcher came into play for me. My answer was take my own life. You know, every opportunity where something went wrong, my answer was I'll take my own life. And for the first 34 years of my life, that's every time something went wrong, that's what I felt I was meant to do, because that's what the world told me that I would do, because my parents had done it. The circumstances I was in led me to believe I would. But then I realized that actually I had a choice about what I did and how I behaved, and et cetera, et cetera. And the choices of my life became totally different. And my life became important. And certainly I had to grow in that. I had to find who I was. But I also learned that other people's opinions cannot become your truth. So the opinion of others could not become my truth. My truth is my truth. And another lesson that I learned working later on in government, and, you know, and miracles of all the way through my life, really, when you think about it since then. But something happened. You tend to put your truth to a label. You might, you know, you've got a specific job, a senior executive in a company, and all of a sudden that job is taken away from you, and you think you've got nothing and you're nobody, because your truth is attached to that label instead of attached to who you are. And that's what happened to me. I was high up in government. I had my job taken away from me overnight. And that was when that was a changing, pivotal point in my life. And we talk about, we get to a divided road and we have to decide which way we'll go. That was my point where I realized that if I was to be true to myself, then I had to know myself and that level of self-awareness, who I was, again, what I was prepared to give up, what I was prepared to do, what generational inheritance I would leave for my family, which would be different for my children than it was left for me. What law of the picture would I leave? What picture would I leave? What legacy would I leave? And in amongst all of that, finding about who I was, my self-worth, my self-respect, my self-confidence, and my self-esteem. And I work really hard to stay true to that.
Well,
sorry, I get carried away, Eric. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, it's clear the work that you've put in because of the fruits of your labor, but also the community that you've built around you. When I tell people Wendy's gonna be out, they're like, "Oh, we just love her." I mean, they like just gush all over and want to drop candy on your doorstep. But that's not because of what you did yesterday, and that's not because of what you did last week. It's what you've done since you've turned 34. Yeah. It is the compounded effect of staying true to that choice. And people are like, well, it was easy for Wendy because. You know what? We all continually re-choice each and every morning. Each and every morning we recommit, we re-choice on who we're going to become, what our mindset is going to be about. The ideal of who we are is not a one and done thing. Trust me, I could bring on 50 at the top. I mean, like the Russell Bronson or Sir Russell, across the board people, and they're like, oh my gosh, you have no idea how hard it is for me to stay positive, to stay committed, to stay intentional, to stay in growth. I wrote yesterday on sort of the Facebook little mini blog was that success is very boring.
I saw that.
Because so many people see the end product. They see the stage time. They see the fancy car. They see the big account. They're like, oh, that must be very exciting. And the person's like, this that you see is maybe 5 or 10% of what I'm doing every day. The 90% that I'm doing off camera, out of screen, not in publication, that's the hard work and that's the boring work, but I need to do that to maintain that other piece. So I love the way you said that you made the choice and then you forced yourself, you committed yourself to staying committed to that choice.
That's right. And I loved what you said about re-choice. I've never phrased it like that, but I'm going to steal that now, Eric, because...
You've got 2 quotes. One more and it's a home run. It's a cricket wicket.
I love that re-choice. And that often people say to me, that's way too simple when you say choice. But life is about a series of choices. Every day, you're right, we get up, we choose. We get to choose when we actually get up what we do with that time. How we use our time, which is one of the greatest commodities that we have, that we spend it, we can't get it back. and the choices we make through that time. But yeah, I love it. Re-choice every day. And it's not easy, and you keep going. But like I said, intentionality has a sneaky little partner. Besides action is commitment. And once you make that compounding, consistent, continual commitment that you won't give up. And I love, you said, I think on your Facebook Live, that you hated the quote, failure is not an option. I don't like that either. Yeah. It's just like I will fail, but I'll get up and I'll go again. So it's not about failure not being an option. I'm failure proof. I've been waterproof like you have, Eric. So I will get up and keep going no matter what happens.
So that one, failure is not an option, just drives me nuts, because I understand what it means. It's like, go in at all costs, never turn back, keep pushing forward. But because we live in sort of a microwave mentality, we only hear failure is not an option. So therefore, when we failed, we're no longer part of it. Brene Brown did something the other day when she talked about a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And so failure proof means that I'm in a growth mindset, that I'm willing to see that failure exists, but I'm also proofed or protected or armored against it as being more than that. It's also, and then she was using the analogy of when we say that I'm smart, it's a fixed mindset, because smart implies that we have achieved, as opposed to I'm committed to learning, or I'm a learner, or I'm an adaptable. And so just as sort of a side teach, when you're doing the IMs, check the words to make sure they're not stuck in time, that they're not a fixed mindset kind of thing, that they do allow for growth and adaptability, because you can't make a commitment without having a growth mindset. Because when I started this Facebook Live 770 some of these ago, I had no clue. Like, just hitting the play button was scary. It's changed and morphed and grown and fallen apart and been put back together in so many ways that the commitment has been consistent, the direction hasn't. And so I want to check in with you on the idea, because you've talked about intentional action. And a lot of us this week have been hearing about don't get committed to the plan, get committed to the goal. Intentional action, commitment. How do you keep yourself open to opportunity? Because what is your DISC profile? DC?
DCS.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. DCS.
You think, folks, like, she's on the side of the wheel that makes a plan, then drives through the wall to get it done. Or drives through the wall and then counts the number of bricks that are left on the wall as she leaves. Like, so DC and then IS, and then the S. It doesn't surprise me. But I definitely see the C. How do you maintain flexibility being a DC, being intentional, being committed, being so what may appear rigid to your driving purpose? How do you maintain flexibility? How do you maintain inspiration?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. I guess I'm very careful about who I have in my inner circle, to what voice I listen to make sure that I keep feeding myself well, which causes me, there's a reaction to that action that I take, is that I become flexible in my creativity and my thinking. Give me the rest of the question again, because I've lost the question in my thinking.
See?
Sorry.
I was trying to make sure you could see that C mind. Did I answer all the points? How do you stay open to inspiration and into flexibility?
Open to inspiration. I look for it. I look for initiative. I don't wait for things to come to me. I'm open to opportunity. I look for creative ways and find them. So I'm always on the lookout for an inspiration or a creative way or a different way to do something. So even though I have a C, I'm very low in my C. So the detail can bog me down if I allow it to. I try to keep myself in a different mindset. So to look for that inspiration, to as I said, be very careful about who I have in my inner circle. I learnt that a long time ago, that we have to be very wise about who we allow to speak into our lives, and who we give power to speak into our lives, because that affects everything: our self-esteem, our self-worth, our self-respect, all those things, and our ability if we allow the wrong voice. So being part of the John Maxwell team has been great for me, because it's taken me to such a different level of where I am now, because we have so many great people. And like yourself, I listen to specific people that I know have got words of wisdom, and I'm held accountable. I like to have someone that will hold me accountable. We know we all need a coach, and we all need an accountability partner. Someone that'll hold us accountable for our, for the new ideas and the things we say we're going to do, as well as being countable, COUNTABLE, to ourselves. We need to be countable to ourselves.
So do you guys hear this? One, she's aware of her weakness or her area of growth, which is the IS side of her personality. So she intentionally, like, okay, though I know this, let me pause and think, is there anything else that I haven't thought of? Is there any other opportunities? And I seek out people who will pull me into inspiration, who will pull me into flexibility, who will guide me, not because of their agenda, but because they know that's an area that I need support and strength in. And the idea of having a coach, and this isn't coaches selling coaches, but often when I'm coaching or when I'm being coached, I'll hear them say something like, is that the only option? And I'm like, what? Like, I thought that was a solid, good one. Like, I have got 20 pages on notes on why this should be. And just that, is that the only option? Sometimes is that permission slip to say, I don't know, and to go exploring. Or is that the right option? Those two questions can keep me busy for a week. I love that you understand that you need to find an inner circle. You need to grow an inner circle that echoes your voice. So the people that were in your circle at 34 versus the people that are in your circle now, how have they changed? If you would look at the arc of that group, because I'm sure there's very few that have come the full distance.
Oh, very much so. When I was 34, and at that time, I wanted to be like everybody else. I wanted to be like this person and that person, because obviously that person was successful, or they had friends, or they looked good. We can all look good from the outside, can't we? We can look perfect. We've got it all together with, everything. Facebook is a great example of, if you look at somebody, they're so successful. And I wanted to be like those people, but those people didn't actually speak into my life. They would tell me that I wasn't enough, that I couldn't even be to the quality that they were. They didn't come with me in the journey. So I believe God changes the landscape for me as a woman of faith. God has changed the landscape of my life as I've been ready for those changes in the new seasons, so that I can be all that I am created to be. I remember, even before I knew what faith was, I was a 15-year-old girl, and I won't go into the circumstances, but I remember I had this vision, this dream in that moment, a daytime dream when you're daydreaming. I was sitting on a bus. I can even remember the dress I was wearing. And the words that came to mind was that I would be a woman of influence. And for me, 15-year-old girl, anyway, we don't need to go there, but how could that possibly be? When I was 34, I realized that was a possibility, that could be real. So the things of my past couldn't come into the things of my future. See, there's power in the present, hope in the future. Power in the present, hope in the future. And that's where I needed to stay. So yes, there's not many people from my past that are now here within my inner circle. And even just recently, in these last 12 months, we sold our house and moved. We just knew it was time to change our season. 15 years in the one place, everything changed. And with that comes some grief in that. But I also knew that my landscape would change and the possibilities would change, which they have done. The things I'm doing now, I wouldn't have done when I was there. So there's times and seasons in our life that things will change so that we can go on to the next season, the next landscape, to reach all of the possibilities that are part of our God-given purpose, or whatever your belief is, your purpose.
I love the visual. You have Bobby Sykes, who is a local friend, who is an artist who does oil paintings, who's just a phenomenal artist. But that idea of a landscape, I think sometimes in our physical sense, we think that landscape has to be contained in that frame, that belief, that idea, that system that we set up to hold the picture, the present landscape, who we are, where we're at, what our gender, what our race, what our culture, that frame that we establish, and then we try and create a landscape that has everything that we can shoved into it, and we call that a pretty picture. When I think of Bobby the other day, I noticed the other day he had posted a picture of something he had, a piece of art, and it was like as long as the living room wall. I mean, it was like amazingly long, and I thought, that's the landscape that I want. And it was unframed. That's the landscape that I want to live in.
Yes, yes.
So big that when I'm up close, I don't see the whole picture. But when I move back, I see it all.
Yeah. And you're right, Eric. Because we put a border around what we think our life should be, and it stops us having that creativity and those opportunities. But what if we take the border away?
And yeah, I mean, and if you go to the museum and you study and you're a lover of art, first you look at it up close because you get to see the individual brushstrokes, you get to see the technique, you get to see the layering of colors, you get to see all of the details. But as you move back, you begin to see how those details start to create the bigger and bigger image. When we do the law of the trade-off, as you had started, sometimes it's those little details that we're focused on, those little, like, well, I gave up this to get that. I gave up this to have this. I gave up this to go here. And we don't take the time to pull back to see how those trade-offs have really paid off.
That's important. Yeah. Yeah. It's important to stop and think about, and I think it's until you get further along on that journey of the trade-off that you look back in that rearview mirror and you start to see, like, if you put your hand, I have this visual when I put my hand up to look back, I can look back in that rearview mirror of my life and I can see where I've made the trade-offs, but I see the outcome of that, and we should celebrate those outcomes. And I think what we forget to do is to celebrate the wins that we achieve, personal wins, reflective wins that we have because we gave something up to go to where we're meant to go. Does that make sense?
It makes, but I'm just stuck on the image. I think it's part of the fact that you said that you look in the mirror, you don't go back.
Oh, yeah, can't go back. Can't go back.
You guys, that's a really big, I mean, you'll have to visualize it today, that the law of the trade-off is not constantly going back and saying, well, I gave up this and I haven't seen this. I gave up this and I haven't seen this manifested. I gave it this expecting this. Because then you're constantly going back, like you're turning the car around and going home, and you're never going to achieve the direction you want. When you trade up, you trade out. I think is the way I see it better, is that once you're out, you're out. Like, I'm sorry, I gave it up. I took it down to the curb. I set it on the street. Some stranger that I don't know picked it up and took it off, and I can't get, it's gone. If you're trying to do the law of trade-off and still keep it somewhere in your proximity where you can see it, where you can reclaim it, where you can go back and touch it, you haven't really done the law of the trade-off. You haven't really said, I'm willing to give up this to go there. Yeah.
That's so true. And I'm stealing trade out now because I like that.
You and I are just going to be teaching partners. Is that it?
I like that. I love that. You're right. You can't go back, because if it's still there, you haven't actually traded it off or traded out. It's still there. You can go back. But you have to truly trade off. If you're trading off, you actually, if you look at the dictionary meaning of that, I think you'll find that you've given it away to get something else. So, for me, for the next 3 weeks of my life, I've traded out my sleep my diary, all of those things go up 3 weeks of constant writing because I'm writing my story. So I've already done that. I've already blocked out, I've traded out, I've said no to things because I know that's what I'm prepared to give up to get the outcome that I want.
So we're already back to intentional actions. I made a decision, I made a choice to stay in the language of the conversation. So I made a choice. I looked at what I currently have in my life, time, money, resources, friends, family, notebooks, whatever it is. I piled all my resources that are in my current condition on my desktop. I determined which ones I need to go to the next place, and I sort of put those on the left side of my desk. I looked at what was remaining, and I said, I need to trade off or trade out something from this pile if I'm going to add to this pile. And it's funny because sometimes you'll watch those decluttering shows where they're like, before you buy a sweater, you have to give a sweater away. Or before you buy a new tool, you have to give a tool away. Before you can bring something new into life, you have to let something old from life go away.
Yes. So true. That is so true. You need to make room and space for it in your life because otherwise you're just piling on one thing on top of the other. And nothing changes, does it?
No. And I think, I know from my personal experience, and I'm sure other people can relate, that when you're going out on that new adventure, when you're going out, you probably went through it when you moved into the new house. And I went through it when we moved out of the country and overseas. We took everything that we thought we would need. And it was only until after we moved back that some of the stuff had never been opened or unpacked or used. It was like, we took this all the way from Atlanta, Georgia to Uruguay and back. We paid for it. We carried it. We guarded it. We protected it. And we never used it on either end of the stuff. And so, and I'm sure you did that when you moved into the new house. At the old house, you were packing it up and then you got here. It's like, why did we bring this?
Absolutely.
So often we equate that to purging stuff, getting rid of the things in our lives. But I think if you're moving into that higher place, into that higher level of beingness, it's more about the internal stuff.
Yeah.
What is it you've learned to give up now versus that was the most challenging thing for you to give up when you were pre-34?
That's a great question. I guess the baggage. The biggest thing for me, I carried massive baggage with me. And when we're talking about giving up, often it's internal stuff we have to give up to go up. So it was the internal baggage that I carried with me, the unforgiveness, the lack of confidence, the lack of self-esteem, lots of things, lots of anger, lots of frustration. I didn't take that with me. And sure, it would try to come back and I'd have to often give it up again. But the baggage is the thing that I can't take on my journey. Even on my journey now, I'm very mindful not to take baggage that does not serve me well. It's like if you were climbing to the top of Mount Everest, you would only take what you're going to need to get there. And it's the same for that in life, isn't it? Taking the wrong sort of equipment with us, the wrong baggage, the wrong thoughts, the wrong behavior that will not serve us on our journey to get us where we need to be is incredibly important. If we are going to do this journey well, and we are meant to journey well. And I shared on a group that I was working with last week about a Greek marathon runner. And in the olden days, says she who's old, when the Greek marathon runners used to run, they'd be given a torch that had to stay alight. So to achieve the outcome of the race, your torch had to still be alight. So you had to go up a hill, down dale, through rivers, fall over, whatever. So it wasn't the style of the running that got them there. It didn't matter how they ran. It was how they arrived in the end, and their torch was still alight. So isn't that the torch of our heart? Isn't that the purpose of our heart? That, that is still alive when we get to where we're meant to be. So you can't do that If you take lots of baggage with you.
Y'all, this is where you do the, where is it? Drop the mic thing. It's not the style of running that counts. It's keeping the light alive. Yes. It is not the style of running that counts. It is keeping the light alive. It is not the pace of the runner that determined the winner. It was keeping the light alive.
That's right. Exactly.
You all need to like post-it note that, write it on your bathroom mirrors, put it into your personal emojis. We are so stuck on our style and our speed and our outfits and all of that, that we will set the light down on the side of the road, hoping to get ahead of somebody else, and you can't go back and reclaim it. It's like, you don't, who is guarding your light when you abandon it on the side of the road? Who is monitoring and lifting that light up as a beacon for other people and other runners if you set it down because you're worried about the pace, you're worried about the tempo, you're worried about the style? If you're so focused on all of that, you may end up at the finish line first, but you're going to show up as the loser because you failed the important part of the journey, was to keep the torch lit.
That's exactly what I taught in that course that I've just completed with a group. That exactly that. It's not how you look, it's how you feel, what's in your heart. It's that light that you're supposed to carry. You know, we're supposed to finish the race well, run with endurance and finish the race well. And I guess for me, I've carried that light, that life in my heart, that light in my heart, that word that I could be a woman of influence, that I could speak globally. Here I am speaking globally tonight.
5 continents.
So 5 continents, yes. So the baggage can't come with me on that journey because it'll slow me down, it'll trip me up, and it'll put my light out. So for the people that are on this call this morning or late this evening here in Australia, is what is the baggage that you need to give up? What is tripping you up on your journey? What is forcing you to want to put your light down? Because the minute we put it down, the next person that picks up your light is not going to be able to look after it the way you do, because it's your light, it's your purpose, it's the call that you've been given. It's nobody else's. And that's why your style doesn't matter, how you look doesn't matter. It's living true to the very purpose that you've been given. And you know what it is. You know your why, you know. And if you don't, I heard Eric say, go to his Facebook page or on his website, and you can do a little test on how to find out what your why is, to start to understand what you're called to be. But you'll know it deep in your heart. You know deep in your heart. I'm
a visual thinker. I don't know where that falls on the chart except Crazyville. So here I see myself running down the road, like got my light, keep my light alive. And in the other hand, I have 3 suitcases, a briefcase, and my family history. This arm is going to get tired. This arm is going to start to, shake and tremble. I have to make the choice to let go of all of that suitcase, let go of the family history, let go of the family legacy and the family story and all the lies and deceit that I've been given, so that I can move that and continue, or I have to set down the light and carry that baggage. And that's what really you sort of said you decided to do at 34, was like, okay, I've got a long race ahead of me. I've got to figure out a way of maximizing the resource. And the only way to do that is to drop this baggage right here on the side of the road.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly it. That's a great picture of it, Eric. That's what I had to do. Let the baggage go and hold on to my light. And it was choice. It's all about choice. And it was all about that intentional action and that commitment. And re-choice, I love it. I'm stealing it, definitely. that re-choice every day. You re-choice the minute you get out of bed. The minute you step foot out of bed in the morning, you get to re-choice. You may not be able to change the circumstances that you're stepping out of bed into, but you can choose how you react, how you behave, who you are, where your light is in those circumstances. And, for many years, that's where I was, but I still had choice. I had choice on how I showed up. I had choice on who I was. And for me, if there was one thing that has changed my life, it was the power of choice.
So, and I love it, because that back ends when we 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had the author talk and we talked about manifesting with God. The idea that if we change the consciousness, the condition will change, but the condition will never change the consciousness. And you could change that to the choices will change the condition, but the condition will never change the choices we make each day.
Yeah.
And I want to sort of just, keep this little light of mine shining sort of thing, is it wasn't the boldest flame that won. You just had to cross the line with your flame intact. And so some of us start out and we think, well, I've just got this little candle whisper, birthday candle size flame going. It's really not enough to inspire the world, change the universe, create an impact. Hey, if the other guy lets his down, if the other people fall off the path, if everybody stops and blows theirs out, yours is the only light. And, that image of total darkness, one light can completely shatter total darkness. Don't worry about the size of the torch or the size of the light or however you image it, because just like one loom can shatter darkness. And so the choice of giving up that family history, that choice of getting outside of the picture frame, that choice of taking an intentional action or following through on the law of trade-off is what's brought you here today.
No, absolutely. And my light, my torch was very, very, very little flickering light when I started out. Absolutely. But the longer you run the race, the longer you run the marathon, the longer you hold the light, the stronger the light becomes, because it's the easier it becomes to make choices. It becomes, and a lot of it is habit, isn't it, Eric? You start to realize it's about habit on your choices that you make. And, some of my coaching clients at the moment are about their health and their well-being. So it is about habit choices that they're making so that they can be the very best that they can be. So you do, when you're determined and when you're taking that intentional action and you're totally committed, you will trade off to keep your light alive.
Well, and I always say habit choices are still self-value choices. And often we fail in our habits because we haven't valued ourselves enough to make it bigger or better than the habit we're trying to compete with.
But it doesn't it start with
these notes for a while?
Isn't it about valuing yourself? See, until I realized that I actually had some value to this world, that there was something valuable in me that would add value to somebody else, or just being in this world, in the real person that I was, that I was actually valuable. Until I actually got that, until you get that into your heart and into your mind, nothing changes. You've got to know that you are valuable. Everybody has a value. And I'm not talking about dollar value.
So, and it's an easy lesson to say and teach. But I want you to go to that woman who is literally sitting at her kitchen table, looking around, and maybe it's an abusive situation, emotionally, physically, mentally. Maybe the bank account is like $20 and she knows that there's $500 worth of bills coming towards in the mail this week, that I have no, like Wendy, that sounds really nice. You sit there and you've got your beautiful hair and your wonderful outfit and you're like, I have no value. You don't understand who I really am. If you knew who I really was, you wouldn't tell me that.
And I was where you are. If you're one of those people, I was where you are. So I know that you feel you have no value. And how do you change that thought that you have no value? You have to find one thing within yourself that's valuable. To know that you are of value to the people around you, to your family, to your children, to somebody, but you're of value to yourself. The realization that the circumstances may not change. You will wake up tomorrow or you'll go through your day and your circumstances will not change. But if you can find in your heart that you are of value to yourself, that you actually are important, that you are loved, you are special, and you are unique, that you have the ability to be remarkable, because each one of us does. We just don't know where it is. It's so drowned by the expectations of other people on us that we don't even realize that we are remarkable, or we can be remarkable. That finding something, just a little glimmer, just a flicker of one thing about you that's valuable, one thing that you like about yourself, one thing that you can see that's good about yourself, and you start to build on that. Because I had nothing. There was nothing about me that was of value. There was nothing. You know, my parents were alcoholics. I was on the road to becoming an alcoholic myself. You know, my father had shot himself in front of me and had me hand him the gun so that, you know, without even knowing that's what he was going to do. My mother then committed suicide. I tried to commit a suicide. So I had a history. And my first marriage was full of violence. So I've been there, done that, had no food on the table. I still had to find something to keep me going, because if I couldn't, I would have given up. So finding one thing to keep you going, one thing. I'm not asking you to find 20 things. I'm asking you to find one thing that you like about yourself, one thing that you can love about yourself, one thing that you can see can add value. I love the I am statements. And let me say, for women, let me just speak to women specifically right now. For women, we often feel we are not enough, because the world tells us we're either not enough or we're too much. One or the other. We're not enough or we're too much. But let me tell you, you are more than enough. You are perfect in every way. So finding that within yourself and believing it. So finding it, and then you have to believe it. So your I am statements, that saying who you are. And you talked about, what was your I am statement today, Eric? I can't remember.
Oh, today was I am loved because of my daughter.
Yeah. So, and even knowing that you are loved, even if it is simply loving yourself. I had to learn to love myself. I literally had to learn love myself, because I didn't believe there was anything lovable about me. There was nothing within me that anybody would love. My parents didn't love me. You know, the circumstances, and too many gruesome things, read my book when it comes out, would tell me that, you know, I wasn't worthy of love and I wasn't loved. I was just really a thing. But that had to change. And sure, you're in the midst of different circumstances. You think, how will it change? But it changes by making one choice. One choice. One choice. What is one choice that you can make today that will make a difference? One choice.
Yes. And that is, you know, it seems like a simple 28-day challenge, coach, throw it out. But I firmly believe in learning that I am empowerment. And
Yes.
if you're sitting in that position, that it's like, you know, and I've been there, done that. We all could relate it different. When you've got that hand to the wall, I'm like, you just don't get it, buddy. Like, you have no clue. Then maybe your I am statement for the next 28 days or throughout whatever is, I'm not finished.
Yes. Yes.
Because
right.
For me, when it's darkest, for me, when it's like, oh, Lord, you really had to put this mountain in front of me today. I can't even get my shoes on. I say, okay, you have not brought me this far to leave me alone.
Yeah.
I have not arrived at this point, because it can't, like, if I'm still able to consciously know that I'm alive, then it's not finished.
Yes, that's right. And reach out and get help. Reach out and get help. Get someone else to work with you.
Build your inner circle. Build your community of voices. That's why this Facebook Live, that's why other people in our community of coaches and thinkers and inspirational people try and find avenues that always include some element of the barrier to entry is as low as it can get, because nobody arrives to where they're at now without going through a season of pain, without going through a season of disappointment, without going through a season of really raising the hands to the like, okay, God, you win, I'm done. Like, universe, you've taken the last out of me. And in that moment, and for me, I had the opportunity to visit a NICU, a neonatal care unit, and there were babies that were literally the size of a Coke can or smaller, and doctors and nurses and respiratory therapists, and the whole medical team was like all on top of them. And you would see this little infant try and reach out and grab a hold of somebody. And this is a being, not to be disrespectful, that hadn't experienced anything in life except pain and struggle. I mean, from the moment of birth, they have been fighting against the world just to take a breath, and they still reached out for human connection.
Yes, yes.
And so in your growth, in your desire to become intentional and take intentional action, you've got to reach out to other human beings and choose them carefully, because you're at your weakest moment. And so maybe going above and beyond who you think you're worthy to hang out with, that's where you need to go.
Yeah, absolutely, Eric. I could not agree more. Go beyond where you think you're worthy to go. And that's what I had to do.
Because we are all worthy, regardless of your faith, regardless of your position in the universe. If you pulled breath into your lungs this morning, you were worthy of something more than you're currently experiencing.
Yeah, very much. And remembering that, even if you just write that as your I am statement, I am worthy, I am worthy, I am enough. And I love that I am not finished. I am not finished. Because none of us are, none of us are.
And the great part is when I finally get to say I'm finished, I'm not going to be around to say it. So
that's exactly right. We all have a race to run. We all have a race to run, and we can do it well. Yeah.
Your race is far from finished. You're going to be like the next Pat. You're going to be going full steam ahead at 90 plus years old or whatever. I forget Pat's age. She is an amazing testament to finding that continual endurance to challenge. You, my friend, I am going to be digging out notes all day long. You have dumped so much wisdom, so much value, so much into us today.
Thank you, Eric.
As a side note, I was always like, okay, I have this, like, when you're running an event or you're hosting a thing and you've got your A-list celebrities and then your others, like, I could get these to fill the space, but these are the people that could really, you were on the like, whew, this is going to be a reach, but I'm going to ask.
Thank you.
I'm honored that you said yes. I always like to invite my guests for an opportunity to connect and offer a way for people to continue to connect with them. So how can they continue to connect with you or whatever you're doing or the message that you're sharing?
One of the things that I felt to do this year was to spend 4 weeks with a group of people. So it's call 4 for more. And it's 4 weeks of intentional action to step you boldly into whatever it is you want for 2019. And they've been such a hit here in Australia. It was supposed to be one lot of 4 weeks. I've just started the second group, but I'm wanting to run it also for my international friends, my international followers. So just jump onto my Facebook page if you're interested. 4 weeks, you will not be the same. You come out the other side of 4 weeks and everything in your life will have changed for the good, for the better. It's a very small investment, and I keep it at a very low investment financially so that anybody can join. And if money's an issue, you can join for free, because it's all for me about helping you be intentional. So it's about self-discipline, intentional action, initiative, commitment. What's limiting you? What's the things that are limiting you? Are you thinking with abundance or scarcity? And priorities. And I also just throw in a little bit on attitude and application. So 4 full-packed weeks. But I tell you what, you will change. If you are intentional about wanting to be different in 2019. See, we've put our hand up. We don't want to go back to the end of 2018. 2019 lays ahead. What do you want it to be like? I'd love to work with you. No pressure, though.
And you have got so many people. I saw Marie Cochran jumping in. She's next week's Fun Friend Friday guest. She's all hearts and stars for you. And I see Julie here and a couple other people. Just as we wrap up, take a moment and say good morning. Say hello to Miss Wendy. It's actually now almost midnight. So
Yes,
you
it
have not
is.
only
It's
gone
after
over,
midnight.
you've gone to Poland, to Africa, to Peru, to the United States, and you've gone for a 2-day seminar.
I have. It's now 11 minutes past 12 midnight here.
So it's now Saturday morning. So you have done international teaching on a 2-day seminar. How does that fit on your credential list? I hosted a 2-day international seminar.
I'll have to think about how I'm writing that one up, Eric.
I will stand in credential because truthfully, I know that we don't always need to be in the room to impact people's lives. And I can guarantee you that you impacted people's lives today. And when people share this out and express how they learned and grew from it today, you will be impacting more than we can see. And I think ultimately that's why you love being in the law of the trade-off, is because of the impact that you know you can make that you'll never ever see.
Oh, absolutely. Isn't that what it's all about? And I just want to honor you and thank you for inviting me to join you on your live feed. I was honored when I received the invitation, Eric. So when you were thinking about would I come, I was honored to be asked. So thank you very much for inviting me to be with your Fun Friday family and to share a little bit from my heart.
So we're going to have to do Australia more often. So we'll call it Fun Friend Friday, Saturday morning share because...
Yeah, anytime. You just reach out. I'll be here.
So, you have Nellie here as well. So, yeah, I could do my Australian accent, but it'd be a bit of an insult. I did get to spend time in Australia for about a year. I loved it.
It is nice.
All except for the hamburgers when they put the beets on it. That if you're an American and you go and order a hamburger, make sure they don't put the beet on it. Do you do that in your area of town?
They probably do. I don't know. I don't usually eat hamburgers, but I like beets.
See, I love Australia. Again, Wendy, you have been a phenomenal guest. You guys, intentional action, dropping the baggage, changing the picture frame, understanding your worthiness. I mean, there is so much lesson in here. I know I'm going to be transcribing it and taking notes out of it, but I got to tell you that image of the marathon runner, if nothing else today, I'm going to ask, am I guarding my light?
Yeah, very important.
I don't care what it looks like. Am I guarding my light? I've been given one charge from birth to death, and it is to carry that torch forward. I don't even know what the course looks like. I don't even know how many hills and valleys and what I'm going to have to cross over. But to do that in the most effective and efficient way, I've got to let go of the baggage and the belief system that I've been carrying that's been keeping me from being able to honor that light and carry it higher.
And if you feel like you can't hold on to your light, look at what's limiting, what's stopping you from holding on to your light. What is stopping you from doing that? What's making you want to put it down? Good to have that reflection. Yeah.
I saw it in the NICU with that infant reaching out for another human connection when there was no logical reason that child should even desire to live. I mean, they hadn't experienced anything in life that you and I have had. They'd only experienced pain, suffering, torment, struggle, hardship, like from the moment of birth. And yet they kept reaching out. This child kept reaching out for human contact to expand and express, even in that little infancy. So that's what we're all designed to do. So Wendy, you have been a phenomenal guest. When we wrap up, will you do a favor and drop the URL somewhere in the comments for the 4 more?
Yes, I will.
I think it's titled 4 more.
4 for more. And it's just on my Wendy Burns Facebook page, but I'll just pop my Facebook URL in there and they'll be able to find me.
Great. I could go on all day, but I don't want to keep you until Sunday morning, even though you could cross over another continent. I don't know. We could circle back to Australia. If we keep going, we got to get the Aussies to wake up. I do appreciate you as a guest. I do appreciate the light that you carry into the John Maxwell team community and that you approach it with such passion and such commission to bring people into their dreams and to show them that they have found a place to grow that and expand that dream. I know you give up a lot to be on those calls and to be accessible to people. When we spoke the other morning, it was 6 a.m. and your phone was already buzzing with questions and comments and needs, and you didn't hesitate to answer. So thank you for always being that service to us.
It's an honor to serve. It's an honor to serve in whatever we do, isn't it? And I'm grateful for the privilege. So thank you, Eric, and goodbye, everybody.
Everybody have a great afternoon. I will see you tomorrow or Monday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Success Life Live. In the meantime, if you need Wendy, she's going to drop her link in the list below. Till then, go out and make it an awesome day. Go out and live your success. It is yours, and you are worthy of it. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.